Hello, Di here. Today I'm making a shaker card. I've got a craft card base, a pink mat, and a matching coordinating paper mat. Piece of pink fun foam with the area to cut out marked. A couple of pieces of transparency which I've cleaned with some isopropyl alcohol. That gets rid of some of the static. And the card front, which is underneath there with the die still attached with the 40 cut out. Here I'm just trimming the residue away from the foam and getting out the stamp. I've removed the two positive die, well, the 4 and the 0, and I'm stamping the little image from your retro penny black stamp set onto the card, and doing it very badly. It's very poor image indeed. Oh, for a Misty, she cries. But I fix that with some, with a pen. Nothing wrong there. Just checking that the piece of foam is good to go, that the window is actually large enough, and I'm lining that with double-sided tape all around the opening and also around the perimeter of that little piece of foam so that I can adhere the piece of transparency very flat to it, and this forms the well for putting in the shaker components. The isopropyl alcohol worked brilliantly. The shaker components, little beads and sequins, didn't adhere, and also the transparency was nice and clean. I always have trouble with it. In fact, shaker cards are one of my least favourite cards to make. I always seem to have trouble with them. But this one worked quite well. Just putting it onto the back of that shaker component. So you can put the beads and things in and then position them as they're onto the mat on the back of the card. And then the other piece of transparency goes on the back of the card front. And it's easy to position then because you've just got to put the card front onto the secondary mat and with the shaker components inside. Just pushing that down to make sure that it's really well sealed. And because it's such a large piece, it stops anything coming out. Here I'm just putting the positive die cuts back into the areas where they were cut from, so then I can adhere the centers of those numerals back into position. It's just one way of making sure that you get the positioning of those little central pieces spot on. You just leave the numerals in place until such time as the adhesive is quite dry. Keeps everything firmly in place. Just putting a bit of weight on that, make sure it stays in place. Now I'm going to adhere the two little happies together with my Zig glue pen, and I glue them together slightly off center so that the craft color is forming a little shadow. Here I'm just going through and darkening up some of those lines where I misstamped. And now I've started work with my Inktense pencils, just laying down a little bit of a gingery brown around the outside. There's very little, it's such a small image with such small components. There's little colouring to do really. Applying the water and spreading out that lovely pigment. I do a little bit of shading, as you'll see in a moment, with a darker brown, bark I think it is, but really there's little really to do with these. Just blotting off the centre of the tummy there to get rid of some of that additional pigment and leave that a little lighter. Fun little stamps in this penny black set. Now I'm going in with a slightly darker pencil. This is the bark coloured pencil. Putting a little bit of depth to those shaded areas. He's such a whiskery little cat that you'd get away with practically anything. There we go. Now I'm going in again with the first colour, which is much more gingery, just to put a little bit of extra colour. You can see the different depth there, and the pencil had gotten wet by that stage, so it deposited quite a bit more pigment just in that tail area. There we go, that's the cat practically done. Final blot. And onto the roller skates, and for this I'm using it's not an Inktense pencil, this pink, it's a Derwent watercolour pencil, but it's quite a fluory pink. It was the brightest pink I had, so I just used this. I don't actually show you how I finish off the card, I've just got pictures at the end. It's fairly straightforward just to put it all together with the components. I think my camera shut off again. Not quite sure what's going on with it. Here I'm applying the pink directly to the paper, the pencil, and going over it with the wet brush, the same as I did with the cat body. And then to get some of those tiny areas a little darker, as you can see there, but I'm off screen so you can't see what I'm doing, but I'm just applying the wet brush directly to the pencil and getting it more heavily pigmented just for those little areas to brighten them up a bit more. Blackening his eyes and his nose with the Posco pen, and now I'm using my Gansai Tam by Starry Night set to colour the skates with a red gold. And that's about it. There's a picture of the finished card put together. You can see the blue and turquoise and stars and pink of the shaker components. And there's a close-up. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you'd enjoy this. See you next time. Bye now.